guys, good morning. It's Friday. Well, by the time you watch this, it's afternoon because I have to edit this and transcode it and stuff. Not that I'm complaining. Today, I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to show you all the stuff that I got this week. And then we're going to talk Walking Dead Season 2 of the Telltale games. You might notice something different in the background of my office. I got a standing desk, but it's not just a standing desk, guys. I can't even speak. Watch this. Watch this. Watch it. Watch. Yeah! I got an automatic up-down desk. It's like an elevator for ants or small creatures. Look at this. So basically, I can sit or stand in this configuration, and supposedly you don't die if you stand when you work, or something like that. I read on Lifehacker. I don't know. Anyway, I like my desk. Let's get down to business. I got a lot of stuff this week. Not only the desk, but got a lot of stuff at the office. I go into the office and I get stuff. Some of it's free, some of it's I ordered, but it's all stuff I like, okay? So, number one, boom. I got this book called Maplecroft, which I'm very excited to read. It's about Lizzie Borden, you know, the woman who killed her parents with the axe, but maybe not. And then it's a fantasy interpretation of that, which I think is kind of cool. Sherry Priest is a really good author of a steampunk series that I like, so I want to dig in that. Boom, Destiny. I'm excited to play it. I was busy this week finishing Wasteland 2, which I'm still not finished with, and Walking Dead. Boom. Hey, it's a role-playing game. I have not been into pen and paper role-playing for a while. I haven't had time to do a regular group, but this is pretty cool. It's R.A. Salvatore, who challenged me to the ALS thing, and look, boom, Felicia, thanks for the bucket of ice for the kind words. That's his signature, and I really like him. Yeah. I got a board game that I ordered because I went to the board game house here in LA. It's like a cafe where you can get board games. You pay $5 and you play all the board games they have. And this, okay, for the record, this is an extremely chauvinist game. You play, half the group plays ladies, half the group plays gentlemen. The ladies are all about their outfits. The guys are all about getting money to pay for the ladies' outfits. Very offensive, but kind of fun. And when we played it, all the ladies played the gentlemen and the guys played the ladies. And it was actually funny because some of the guys didn't understand the difference between a cape and a dress. Durr, they didn't win. And last thing is a game called, God, this is heavy. It's called, ow! It's called Pendante. And it's heavy because there's a million poker chips in here. My friend did the Kickstarter for this game and he brought it over to our house. And I liked it so much that I got a copy of my own. And I'm a huge fan. If you like poker, and you like pandas, you like those two things combined, this is a super fun game, which I've experienced. All right. Oh, and then I got 4 more of these to give to my mom. Well, she gets 1, and then other people who are related to me get more. And then I got a box from Magic because I do Spell Slingers. I produce that show, and I got a whole box of the new stuff. So I got the core set, the Clash pack. I got another core set. Got another core set. I got all the intro packs. And I'm really excited. I scheduled a board game this weekend. Funness, so we can dig into this. I'm super excited. So my life's good. What a dick. Let's talk Walking Dead. And I might forget some things, but you guys who played it will understand. If you're not familiar with this, Walking Dead as a video game, there's 2 different versions. There's one on the Xbox, I've never played that. This one is by Telltale, and it's really like living a story. So even if you're not a gamer, these Telltale games, you barely do any gaming. You do more, it's more decision making about how you deal with people and how the way that you deal with them lead to different outcomes during the story. And then sometimes you gotta dodge zombies, but I'm always just so engrossed in the story, I always die and I have to restart because you have to go left or right or, break open some glass or whatever. So season 1 was one of my favorite things that I've ever played. I cried like a baby all the time. It told the journey of this little girl, I think she was 10 or maybe even younger, Clementine, and Lee, this guy who essentially takes on saving this little girl and trying to get her to her parents. All right, tragic ending. We end up with no Lee in horrible, horrible ways, sobbing. And season 2 starts out with Clementine as our protagonist instead of Lee. So Clementine is the coolest little girl you've ever met, and she has seen a lot of stuff. So we open up on her traveling with one of the people from the last game. Depending on how you finish the last game, you get a different person. All right, I have to say that this season was a little more frustrating for me because, and I think I figured out why. A lot of these, you were with a hot mess of people. Like, these people all had issues that, as a 10-year-old or 12 or however Clementine's supposed to be, it's a challenge. You know, you have a really neurotic little girl. You have a pregnant woman who's like 9 months pregnant. You have a bunch of other people who are kind of dipshits, and you have to wrangle them. And they put you in positions where you have to make the lesser of two, bad choices all the time. It's very good gameplay, but a little more emotionally frustrating than being Lee in episode 1 or season 1. All right, so the game is released in installments of 5. So over about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, you get each month or month and a half, you get an installment. There were 5 installments. So I just finished the 5th one, and we're gonna talk about the whole thing. So there were some really hard decisions this season. And then there were easy ones because people were so stupid. Like for Sarah, example, there's a little girl in the whole season, and she is like afraid of everything, and she is paralyzed even when there's zombies about to gnaw our brains off. And choosing to save Sarah or not save Sarah over and over again was so frustrating. At certain points I was just like, okay, let Sarah die, but I didn't. And then in episode 4, which was kind of frustrating, she just dies and you can't do anything about it. That, I guess, is the biggest criticism I have in the season, because you taught her to use a gun earlier and it never paid off, which I was kind of hoping she would just open a can of bullets on some zombie or at least a person. So she was frustrating. And then the whole thing with the pregnant woman and getting captured by this weirdo in a warehouse who's actually the father of the baby, and everyone just dying, was traumatic, to say the least. At the end of episode 4, you see the mother of the baby turn into a zombie and almost eat the baby, and that's the cliffhanger. And then you're in this huge shootout. So my thoughts about the last episode are, fuck Arvo. And I try not to use strong language all the time without bleeping it, but this guy is a jerk. So it's a kid who you meet in episode 4, and he has a stash of drugs, prescription drugs. And you have to make a choice whether to rob him or not. And I have to admit that I metagamed this because I didn't know what to do. My instinct was to not rob him just as a good person, but then I'm like, we have this pregnant woman, we have other sick people, I need these drugs. And then I was like, oh, this guy does the same thing whether you rob him or not. So I'm just gonna be bad a little bit and rob him. So at the conclusion, he and his friends show up and rob us, and it gets into a shootout. All right, certain decisions. At the end of the game, they show you the percentages of what people do. A, I definitely tried to get the baby. I don't know who would not decide to save that baby that's on the ground in the shootout, unless you're playing like chaotic, evil Clementine, which looks like it could be fun. 2, you have to decide whether to cover Luke or help him out. He falls through the ice. You have to cover him or try to pull him out. I figured I'm a small lady, and I didn't think covering him would help because he definitely didn't look like he could get out of the ice. So I went to try to pull him up. Of course, we both, the ice breaks and we go underwater and there's zombies coming up from beneath. That was terrifying, by the way. I was pooping a little bit in my pants. Luke gets dragged down to the bottom. I looked, he dies regardless, but I was not with the majority in those choices. Most people were smart and tried to cover Luke with the gun versus pull him out of the water as a 10-year-old child. Okay, whatever, dudes. You know, sometimes you just gotta buck the system, and I don't want to conform, and I wanted to be a hero. So I almost killed myself because I got dipped in freezing water. Next decision was to ask to go with Mike or not. Now, setup, there's a car at this place, the little Arvo asshole led us. It's like a half-done house, and there's a car out back. And Kenny, the guy we'll talk about in a minute, got the car running. In the middle of the night, I get up. Mike and Bonnie and Arvo, this Arvo kid, they are stealing the car. In the middle of it, I'm holding them at gunpoint, and basically Arvo shoots me in the shoulder. Blackout. You wake up, you're in the car with Jane and Kenny. Jane is this cool, short-haired girl who's like a big sister to you. She's always leaving and coming back, and very independent, but she really likes Clementine, and Clementine as a kid, and she comes back for Clementine. All right, Who would ask to go with Mike? Who would be like ditching Kenny and the baby and Jane? Those are the only characters you care about. I was definitely with my majority there. I'm interested to see who would be so renegade to be like, nah, screw those guys I've known for, you know, months. I'm getting in the car with these weirdos. And Arvo, who shoots you. That kid, I mean, there's no winning with that kid. He's just pure evil. I mean, Kenny, granted, is beating the crap out of him in a really weird way, and we'll talk about that repercussion of that. But at the same time, not trustworthy. He's not a good person. And if I ever see him again in episode 3, boom, right through the head. Not in real life, but in the game. Last thing, the endings. So there are 5 possible endings. And I picked one that I think 36% of people did, which was end up with Jane and a family. So this was the most, I was sobbing, you guys, because at a certain point, you have the baby, and you're with this cool chick, Jane, who looks like she should be a barista in Silver Lake, and you're with Kenny, this old grizzled guy with one eye who has anger issues. I'm not gonna argue about his anger issues. He is an angry man, and I don't really like anger, so I saw the point of everybody being like, hey, Kenny's a wacko, we gotta get away from him. But at the same time, he's from episode, you know, the season 1 of the show. He's always been like flying off the handle, but he has had Clementine's back for, you know, the whole time. I really put a lot of work into my relationship with Jane because I was like, hey, she's a cool chick. I want a leather jacket when Clementine grows up, all right? So I decided to go with Jane, but I felt horrible about it because the setup is that Jane has the baby. Kenny and I see her come back with no baby. And Jane has manipulated the situation to make Kenny attack her and try to kill her. And at the time I sided with Jane because I'm like, I'm on team Jane. I did not feel good about that, guys, because really, the baby was not even dead. She was implying it was dead and trying to get Kenny to murder her so she could murder him. I feel very conflicted about this. So then I watched a video of all the possible endings. I couldn't help it. So there are even other choices that you can pick. Like if you decide to save Jane and you find out the baby's awake and alive, you can go off on your own with the baby. So there's a renegade ending with Clementine, you know, soloing it at Lone Wolf and Cub style out in the wilderness with a baby, which doesn't seem like a great idea, but it was very nihilistic. You can end up with Jane at the old warehouse and a family comes and has a starving kid about your age, and the last choice is let the family in or don't. And I chose to let the family in, and the guy has a gun, so it looks like there might be trouble. I was not comfortable with my choice. But I wouldn't have been comfortable with holding a gun at them and the kid looking at me like, oh, I'm starving. That would have been a problem for me too. So I was screwed either way with Jane. And Kenny's death scene when you shoot him and he's like, oh, it's better that you shot me. And I'm like, I was weeping, guys. I don't know if you did that ending, but it's tears everywhere. He was... Okay, so then I felt bad. And then I watched the video with Kenny surviving. Man, those made me cry too. So Kenny and my character and the baby go to Wellington, which is like, hey, a safe place that is, you know, it's a mythical safe place that may or may not exist. Hey, it exists. One of those endings is you get in, but they only take the kids. So you got to leave Kenny to fend for himself in the wilderness. Okay, that was a tearjerker because he gives up his spot for you. Or you decide, hey, screw you guys. I'm getting out of here. I'm taking the supplies and we're going off with Kenny. I don't know what you guys chose. I couldn't be on Team Kenny because he had anger issues and he needed some therapy. But I felt bad about being with Jane because she manipulated the situation into killing Kenny because, and she provoked him in the car and they both were just being asshats. Clementine should have taken the car and just gone off on her own. So really that's the most satisfying emotional, you know, like, hey, I'm on my own, guys. I'm rambling because this really should be a live stream because editing this is gonna be a nightmare. But I just want to know what you guys thought about this situation. What did you choose? What did you think of the season as a whole? I found it to be maybe not as complete a journey because, you know, Lee was just such a great hero. But at the same time, I love the fact that Clementine had so many options at the end and she made it through some like ridiculous idiocy I mean, these guys were idiots. I wanted to leave that pregnant woman at every turn. Can I just say that? I was like, you're holding us back, lady. So leave it in the comments what you thought. What do you think is going to happen next season? Because with Clementine having all those endings, I can't see that there's one thing that could unify you back into starting with Clementine as a character. If it's Arvo, I'm going to burn the house down. I don't want to be in Arvo's head ever. That little asshole. Team Arvo, you guys are psychopaths. Team Arvo is 4chan. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed my ramblings on this. Really, I should have done this as a live stream so I could actually see your comments. Maybe I'll try that one day because editing is hell anyway. See you next week, maybe. It's magic.